So, the next subheading we have in the chapter is about periodization. How do we periodize? We divide history into different periods so that we can capture the characteristics of a time, its central features as they appear to us. In 1817, James Mill, a Scottish economist and political philosopher, published a massive three-volume work, namely A History of British India. In this book, he divided Indian history into three periods, that is, Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. Please remember, James Mill divided Indian history into three periods, which viz. Hindu period, Muslim period, and British period. This periodization came to be widely accepted at that point of time. But the question is, can you think of any problem with this way of looking at Indian history? Why do we try and divide history into different periods? We do so in an attempt to capture the characteristics of our time, its central features as they appear to us. So, the terms through which we periodize, that is, demarcate the difference between periods, become important. They reflect our ideas about the past. They show how we see the significance of the change from one period to the next. Please mark it. We see the significance of the change from one period to the next. According to James Mill, all Asian societies were at a lower level of civilization than Europe. According to his telling of history, before the British came to India, Hindu and Muslim despots ruled the country. The meaning of despots is tyrant or autocrat. Religious intolerance, caste taboos, and superstitious practices dominated social life. British rule, Mill felt, could civilize India. To do this, it was necessary to introduce European manners, arts, institutions, and laws in India. Mill, in fact, suggested that the British should conquer all the territories in India to ensure the enlightenment and happiness of the Indian people, for India was not capable of progress without British help. In this idea of history, British rule represented all the forces of progress and civilization. This period before British rule was one of darkness. Can such a conception be accepted today? So, students, before the British came to India, Mill thought that India was living in darkness because in India there was a lot of problem regarding the religious intolerance, casteism, and superstition practices. So he thought only the British rule could civilize India. In any case, can we refer to any period of history as Hindu period or Muslim period? Did not a variety of faiths exist simultaneously in these periods? Why should we characterize an age only through the religion of the rulers of the time? To do so is to suggest that the lives and practices of the others do not really matter. We should also remember that even rulers in ancient India did not all share the same faith. So, students, the classification of James Mill faced a problem because he associated religion with the ruler of the time. Because other than rulers, there were other religion were also existing side by side. That's why it was incorrect to say that the period is Hindu period or Muslim period. Moving away from British classification, historians have usually divided Indian history into ancient, medieval, and modern period. This division too has its problems. It is a periodization that is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity. For example, science, reason, democracy, liberty, and equality. Medieval was a term used to describe a society where these features of modern society did not exist. Can we uncritically accept this characterization of the modern period to describe the period of our study? As you will see in this book, under British rule, people did not have equality, freedom, or liberty, nor was the period one of economic growth and progress. That's why many historians therefore refer to this period as colonial period. So, students, the classification of Indian history by James Mill also faced a problem because he associated a religion with the ruler of the time. And second thing, when we see another classification of Indian history, then it also has another type of problem. It also faces a problem. That means, other than James Mill, the Indian historians they divided Indian history into three periods. That is ancient period, medieval period, and modern period. But this periodization also faced a problem because this periodization is borrowed from the West, where the modern period was associated with the growth of all the forces of modernity. It is because of this reason many historians referred this period as colonial period. So the next question arises here is what is colonial? So we will read next what is colonial. The British came to conquer the country and establish their rule, subjugating or overpowering local Nawabs and Rajas. You will see how they established control over the economy and society, collected revenue to meet all their expenses, bought the goods they wanted at low prices, produced crops they needed for export, and you will understand the changes that came about as a consequence. You will also come to know about the changes British rule brought about in values and tastes, customs and practices. When the subjugation of one country by another leads to these kinds of political, economic, social, and cultural changes, we refer to the process as colonization. So, students, is it very clear to you? It is said when the subjugation, that means when one country overpowers or conquers the other country, then it leads to the changes in the political, economic, social, and cultural changes. It is called colonization.